At the centre of the universe, on the border between the light and the dark, stands Castle Grayskull. For those that control Grayskull will come the power. The power to be supreme. The power to be almighty. The power to be masters of the universe. Hey everyone, I'm here today to take a look at the Mattel Master of the Universe Origins Castle Grayskull playset. Here's the front of the packaging and it's beautiful artwork on the front here. And Castle Grayskulls almost always have this kind of artwork. The original packaging, the classics box for Castle Grayskull. They have this really beautiful artwork that really captures that kind of dark, barbaric feel. You've got various different characters fighting on the front there. Down here you've got Ram Man fighting with Triclops and Evil Lyn, who seems to be bringing some kind of skeleton warriors up to fight, which look a bit like the skeleton warriors from 2000X that Skeletor had in the cartoon that would be covered with slime. Here you can see Skeletor and He-Man battling. Then you've got Man-at-Arms giving Merman a whack, Trapjaw and Teela facing off against each other, and next to that Beastman tackling Man-E-Faces. And above that there's Stratos flying over with the Staff of Avion. Up in the corner there's some sky sleds flying past the moon. And then there's Zodak up in one of the towers. And then we've got the Sorceress down here in her white outfit, like the figure that comes with the playset. There's a really nice picture on the back of the box as well of all the figures posed around the actual playset. So it's nice that on one side of the packaging you've got some beautiful artwork, and then on the other side you can actually see what the toys themselves really look like. You see different figures from the line all posed around outside the castle. Skeletor on top of Panther there and all the evil warriors. And the land shark as well. And then in the corner there, the picture of the inside of the playset. Now at first glance this might look almost identical to the original Castle Grayskull, but there are quite a few new details and tweaks and differences to make it really quite unique and definitely worth getting even if you do own the original Castle Grayskull. Now one difference on the back here is that the roof is painted a kind of wood colour, whereas on the original this was all green like the rest of it, and these looked more like stone slates rather than wooden ones, whereas on this they are very obviously meant to be wood, and that's something that was taken from the classics Castle Grayskull, where the wood effect was given to all these roof parts as well. Another difference is that on the original this window was closed in. It was sculpted on, but it wasn't actually an open window there. There was still just another green bit of plastic. So just minor details like that that improve upon it. Also the positioning of this, what looks like a doorway that's been stoned up. On the original Castle Grayskull that was over to the side more, where it's very central on this new one on the back here. I feel like this is a bit more of a Filmation looking castle, not completely by any stretch, but more so than the original toy. I think this has taken some inspiration from just the look of the Filmation skull, and I do really like this skull design on here. The door is sunken into the mouth more than on the original toy, where this door was a lot further forward and kind of flush almost there with the teeth, whereas on here there's more of an archway with the mouth, which I think looks better. Also on the original toy the door was green, it wasn't painted, whereas on this one the outer part of the door there is brown to make it look wooden, which I like, and there's all the metal details as well. So some nice added details to the paint job here. Also like the kind of wrinkles and grooves on the inside of the skull eyes that make them look more sunken in. That's not on the original. Just minor differences here that do give the skull a more unique look. There's a bit of stone flooring there in front of the door that it comes down on, which is different to the original, but very much like the Classics Castle. And you can definitely see that there are cues taken from the Classics Castle Grayskull design and incorporated into this. Also on the original Castle Grayskull, the windowsill here was more pronounced, and so were the parts underneath, which on the Classics Grayskull were painted brown, so you could see that they were meant to be wood, just to kind of hold the windowsill up, whereas that's all very flat on this, and those bits haven't been painted brown. It's only a small detail that's not there, but it's just something that kind of stood out to me. Also on this castle there are a lot of these white speckles, and this is something that Mattel love to do. I've noticed on a lot of their Jurassic World toys they do this as well. They put this kind of speckling stuff in the plastic, so you get a kind of strange look to it. It kind of works. In some of the dinosaurs it works, and I think on this it's a nice little added detail, just to look like little kind of parts of stone, really, in the building. So I like that. You can see there's quite a lot of it all over the castle. Now, as with the original toy, if you want to open the drawbridge, you have to slide. It's supposed to be He-Man's sword, but actually I've found a thinner weapon actually fits in there a lot better. And if you try and put He-Man's sword in there, because it's quite tight, it'll end up scratching it. So you just stick a weapon in there, and that will unlock the door, and the drawbridge will fall down. And you can see the inside of the drawbridge is all sculpted with the teeth and the tongue, which I love. And it's something that I missed from the 2003 Castle Grayskull. That didn't have that included. So it's nice we've got the wood effect on the outside and then the stone teeth and tongue on the inside there. And there's a look at He-Man standing at the doorway, and there's no way you could get him through that doorway on Battlecat or anything like that. But once again, that's been the same with all the Castle Grayskulls. It would be very difficult to make a Castle Grayskull that was properly to scale with the figures, because it would be huge. You can see there's still quite a bit of headroom above He-Man's head there, so it's a nice spacious doorway. There's a really great sculpt with all the detailing of the bricks and stones that have built the castle. And if we move up to the top here, you can see He-Man manning the guns. Now the gun is a slightly different design to the original, where the barrels were further apart. And I like that, because there's no point buying this if it's exactly the same as the original. I like that they've tweaked things, and there are some different details. And you can stand any figure you want at the back there. And the nice thing about this castle is that the platform to stand the figures is a lot longer than on the original, where it was half the size of that. So the figure would basically have to just hang on for dear life, holding onto the gun while hanging off the edge of the balcony. The pegs there for the hand are a little bit thick. He-Man's hands do just about fit around them, but you have to kind of squeeze them around, so they could have done with making those pegs a little bit thinner. But it works well enough. And there's also a peg on that platform to help to stabilise the figure, which you don't really need, but it's handy just having that extra bit of stabilisation if you want to. You can see the peg there that just goes into the bottom of the figure's foot. One thing I would have liked to have seen is an extra sticker or two to put on the back of the gun here. I feel like it would have been nice if there was a sticker there to have like a targeting thing, and maybe some little buttons or something on that square, like a control panel. But the targeting thing especially there, I think would have looked really nice. Better just included a couple of extra little stickers to go on there. Then you can see on the other platform here there's also a peg to put in a figure's foot, and a thicker peg which is for the flag. Now really you can stand the flag any way you want to, but if you want to have it a bit more stable, if you're moving the castle around, you can peg it onto there so that it won't fall over. On the original castle, the flag was a sticker, and it was quite a bit bigger than this. This flag's actually quite small, but on one side you've got the emblem of the good guys for if they have control of the castle, and if you spin it around, then that indicates that Skeletor or some other bad guy has taken over Castle Grayskull. Now something that's been added to this castle that wasn't on the original is an extra turret at the back of the castle there. So it's nice you've got space for an extra figure. You can stand there as well as where the flagpole is and where the laser gun is for He-Man. Now if we move up into the throne room, you can see the sorceress doesn't quite fit in the throne, which is really frustrating. And I feel like all they would have needed to do is cut some slits there on either side of the armrests, just for the wings to slide down into, because the tail feathers at the bottom there are flexible, so they would flex around. You just need something like a little gap on either side there for the wings to slide down into, and the sorceress would have been able to sit properly in her throne. As it is, she looks like she's kind of hovering above it. And this has been a problem with all of the Grayskulls. Even the Classics Castle Grayskull got this wrong somehow, and you couldn't sit the sorceress in her throne properly without her wings getting in the way. I find even getting a regular figure to sit down properly is a bit difficult. So I just cannot get the articulation at the groin there to kind of move forward at the hips to get him to sit flush on the chair, and he would be sliding off if not for the pegs, which are on the bottom of the chair there and go into the bottom of the feet. You can see one behind that foot. I've got the peg in his right foot, and that helps to stabilise him, but you can see he's not really flush against the chair. And on the back of the throne there is a sticker that you have to apply yourself. There are a few stickers, they're very easy to apply, and I'll show you them as I go through the inside of the castle here. But one thing to note on this is that the original throne did not have these kind of spikes at the top there. That's a new detail that's been added. And once again, I like seeing these added details, so I don't want it to be exactly the same as something that I've already had for 38 years. And there are these little flags that are actually made out of soft goods that hang down. And these were on the original castle as well, but they were stickers, I think. They weren't soft goods like this. And one is hanging down there in front of the throne. And then there's another one, if we go across, hanging there. And they really look good. I do like how they're hanging down in the throne room. And these decorative flags actually will come unclipped from under there, and you can move it over to put here if you want to. And just like the original castle, if you swivel the throne around, it will activate a trapdoor. Whoop! Poor old He-Man's got his head stuck hanging there. That's not good. And the trapdoor is covered by a rug, which is another sticker that you have to apply yourself. And behind that we have this sort of computer control console with another sticker along the top there, and you have to install that console when you get the castle, as well as this wooden flooring and the seat, but it's very easy to assemble. And on the original toy there was a spacesuit that would stand there next to the control panel, both of which were cardboard, but on this new version you don't get the spacesuit because it was actually released as a separate figure, but it's an exclusive and pretty much was sold out within like 5 minutes, so probably no chance that you're going to get hold of that now unless you pay ridiculous scalper prices, sadly. So there's a bit of an empty space there. Personally, I was never that keen on the spacesuit, but I know a lot of people liked it and wanted it, especially as an actual articulated figure, because on the original castle it was cardboard, and on the Classics one it was kind of a hollow plastic mould of a spacesuit. And if we go across to this side, we've got another big computer console, which was cardboard as well on the original toy. But this looks really nice. I do like that it's all sculpted in now and not just stickers and cardboard. And you've got like a view of Eternia and various other planets and space. A really nice kind of image on the console there. Various different details and that. Much better than having a cardboard one. And next to that, we've got the elevator, which works by this pulley string, which has got a gargoyle attached to it there. So you pull on that gargoyle and it brings up the elevator. It's a nice smooth motion there too. Now remember, on the original this was not smooth at all, and so as you were pulling it up there'd be a lot of friction and it would wobble about all over the place, vibrating, and make the figure fall off, especially because there was no peg on the original to hold the figure on, whereas on this one there is a peg at the bottom there that goes into the figure's feet. So as you can see, He-Man will go on that peg there and it holds him nice and securely. This elevator is another thing that you have to assemble. You have to just put the bottom part, it clips on there nicely. But this is almost exactly the same as the original. It's orange like the original. There's no added paint detail or anything. And you just got little kind of switches and controls on the back there. But it works really well. On the original castle, I never really liked that elevator because it just didn't work properly on mine, at least. I don't know if other people had that problem. But it was so stiff to pull up and the figure would just fall over. But this one's a nice smooth motion, so it really works well. Now, just like the original castle, this one comes with a wooden ladder. I mean, it's not actually wood, but you know what I mean. And even though you can put it where you like, there are specific grooves that you can actually slot it into to hold it more securely. There's one here in front of the throne. And there's another here on the middle level where you can peg the bottom part of the ladder into those holes, and then it attaches at the top there, going up to one of the turrets, which is pretty cool. I like that they've sculpted all of the flooring here. On the original Castle Grayskull it was just a kind of plain brown flooring, it was smooth, whereas on this one there's a lot of detailing with all the floorboards there, which looks nice, and it's the same on the platforms here at the turrets as well. Now going down to the bottom level here, we've got the weapons rack, which is something that came with the original, as well as the elevator there. And then if we go around, there's also the very cool sticker of a grate kind of covering a dungeon with lots of monsters and things coming out of it. And the detailing's a bit different on this than to the original toy, but it was always fun looking at all the different creatures' hands and tentacles and eyes that were sticking out of this dungeon grate. This is just a sticker. It would have been cool to have had it sculpted, but that's something we've never had, except from the kind of third parties. Even the Classics Castle didn't have this sculpted in, sadly. But this also comes with an extra weapons rack. Now, on the original Castle Grayskull, it was just a cardboard weapons rack, and it didn't really look like this either. I think this is actually based on the design from the prototype images that was never actually released. But it's nice to have just an extra weapons rack there. And you can just kind of sit weapons on there like that. There's the sword that comes with the castle. He-Man's axe will sort of slide in there and balance on. There's a nice bit of texturing on the floor at the bottom here, rather than it just being smooth like the original. You've got kind of a rocky tiling kind of effect, which is a nice little added detail. Now I will say the weapons rack is the biggest disappointment for me in this set, because it only comes with 4 weapons. Now on the original Castle Grayskull, I'm sure it came with like 8 or 9. There was, as well as the laser rifle, the axe, sword and mace that come with this, there was also a shield that would fit in the side there, which there is still a slot for. It came with another long axe, a spear, a smaller axe, and a little pistol, and I think that's everything that came with it. So that's what, 8 or 9 weapons, whereas on this one it only comes with these 4. And even more disappointingly, there isn't space to put any extra weapons. Now on the original weapons rack, it had loads of pegs all the way along, which so you could add weapons if you wanted to that came with your other figures. On this one, it really only has the space for the 4 weapons that come with it, though you can take the mace off and kind of put it over this peg here. It will just about slide over. It's a bit tight, and then you can use that extra one to put in the sorceress's staff or something. And as I say, there is still the space there for a shield to go in, though He-Man's shield doesn't fit in there. I don't know if Stingcor's will when they release him. So that's a bit disappointing. I don't know why they couldn't have added a few more clips. You could have at least put 2 more in, like 1 there and 1 there. One thing I found interesting is that on the original Castle Grayskull weapons rack, there was this long axe which was re-released with Scareglow as his main weapon. It was just cast in a different colour. Already had Scareglow in the line, and he came with that axe, which looks pretty accurate to the original. But the axe that comes with Castle Grayskull is actually a new sculpt. It's quite a bit different. Now, I don't know why they did this, because surely it would cost them more to have to create a new mould. I don't know. It's kind of nice that it does look different. It's nice to have a unique weapon when we already have this axe in this sculpt that came with Scareglow anyway. But the new one does look a lot cheaper, and I'll say that with all these weapons. They look a bit sort of cheap, like the mace, for instance, here. I feel like it could have done with more detailing in between the 4 segments at the top there. It just looks a bit empty and a bit bare and a bit strange really as a mace, whereas I'm sure the original had extra bits in between each of those, The sword there, I think, also looks kind of a bit weird, a bit cheap looking as well. Now, unlike the original, the rifle doesn't go onto a hook. There's actually a peg there that goes into a hole on the back of the rifle to hold it on, which works quite nicely there. I quite like the laser rifle though, especially with the added articulation of these new figures. You can actually have them hold that pretty well, whereas on the original line they could only ever hold it one-handed. Now I imagine that the gun that comes with Web Store will look more like the vintage version, whereas this one's got more of a square barrel at the front rather than round. Seeing as they changed the axe that came with Scareglow, I think they will change the laser rifle as well. But yeah, it's nice how it fits in the figure's hands now, so they can hold it a lot more accurately. Looks pretty cool. And finally, there's this kind of battle horse thing. I don't know what you call it. And when I was a kid, I never understood what this was. I thought it was like a signpost or something that you'd put outside Castle Grayskull to show you the way. But it's actually for fighting with, like, He-Man would whack the pig's head with his axe and it would swing round, and then he'd kind of block the fist with his shield. It's just something to kind of practice fighting with, I guess. I don't know if this was ever a real thing. And on the original toy, it had 3 legs, I think, whereas this one has 4 to make it a bit more stable. Also, on the original, the fist didn't really look like a fist. It just looked like a sort of weird blob. And the pig's head was a flat thing with just a sort of minor bit of sculpting on, whereas this one's got a really nicely sculpted pig's head there. There's a really nice sculpt on it. It's not painted. With the Classics version, all this was painted detail as well, which did look nice, but I can understand why they haven't for this, and it still looks good. There's a lot of really nice detailing on that pig's head. And then this giant fist. So, it's probably my least favourite thing in the castle, but it's still nice that it's included. I think most people would consider that an essential thing to have in a Castle Grayskull playset. Another nice thing about this set, which we haven't had with a previous Castle Grayskull, is that it comes with a figure of the Sorceress. Now, it's pretty much the same design as the vintage toy version, but in the colours of the mini-comic, I think it was the Temple of Darkness or Temple of Doom, that mini-comic was called, where she had an all-white outfit. And it kind of reminds me of how she looked in the movie as well, which I like. Now, she's got some really good articulation, which the original Sorceress didn't, and she always had a kind of a weird pose, whereas on this one, you can see here, she really holds her staff well and looks pretty cool holding that, wielding it ready for action. And the arms will go out to the side. There's articulation at the elbow that swivels as well as going up and down. There's a swivel and a hinge at the wrists there. The head moves from side to side. It's a little bit hindered by the wings, but you can just about move it. You just have to kind of wriggle the head a little bit, but it does move from side to side because this bit here is a bit soft on the back. It's a swivel at the waist. The legs will go out to the side and forward. The knees bend as well as actually swiveling from side to side. There's another swivel at the middle of her calf there. The ankles hinge and swivel from side to side. I mean, it's an amazing amount of articulation, actually. She's quite a nice face sculpt as well. She's not quite as baby-faced as the original, but she looks, you know, it's really beautiful sorceress sculpt to that face. I really like that. And then you've got the wings on the back. There's no action feature to the wings like the original, which had kind of a spring feature, which tended to break anyway. I think it never worked on my one. But the wings just kind of go out to the side there. This one's a little bit loose, actually. I hadn't noticed that before, but that one's falling down a little bit there. And then on the bottom, these tail feathers are actually very soft. It's kind of a rubbery material, whereas the wings are much harder, clear plastic. This bit here is just a bit flexible, which helps her sit down a bit, as I showed earlier. But yeah, you can have the wings down or up like that. And on the original toy, really, it never looked right because of the way her arms were sculpted. You kind of always had to have her with her wings out to the side like that, which looks really good. But it is nice that you can have the wings down and give her a more neutral pose, and her arms aren't in a strange position like the original there. And just for a quick comparison, here's the new Sorceress with the original, and I imagine they will re-release this Sorceress in the classic colours later on as an individually carded figure. You can see on the new one the feathers are sculpted on the front there, whereas on the original they were painted. On my one a lot of them have come off, and I really hated how these arms were posed on the original, but otherwise they're pretty similar. The original Sorceress figure actually has kind of an ugly face. Unlike all Castle Grayskulls, you can close it up and store all these things inside. You can even fit a few extras, like I keep He-Man in there to carry him out here. All these things you just kind of slide them out of the way into different places, and it will close up. And even the gun and the flag that are on top will go inside too, if you want to get them out of the way, like I did when I was carrying this out here. I didn't want things falling off, so that all just goes in there like that, and then it closes up. And it has clips that are very much based on the ones from the classics Castle Grayskull. When you close it up, they kind of flip up, they hang down, they're just hooks like that, and then to close it you clip it on like that, which is different from the original Castle Grayskull, where it was just a bit of plastic that would slide into a loop and hold closed. I think this is probably more secure and less likely to break. Very easy to just clip that and unclip it like that. And then there's that carry handle at the top there, so you can easily carry this around. And it's pretty light, even though the plastic feels very solid. There's a slight flex to the plastic that actually makes it feel safer, like it's less likely to break. The original castle always felt very brittle. In fact, it's amazing I never broke mine actually. But this one, it feels quite durable, but it's also very light and easy to carry around. You can see where the turrets at the back and the front combine together to give you a nice big space there to stand the figure if you want to. And it's held together with a metal rod going down the side there, so it's all very secure. The original one, it just kind of slid together at the side. Anyone who has the original will know what I mean, where at the hinge it kind of had bits of plastic that slid in together and that would come apart if you opened it up too much. But this is all secured with a metal rod going up there. And now for some comparisons. Here it is next to the original Castle Grayskull, and this is the castle that it's most similar to. But even then, it's still very different if you really look at the details. At first glance, they're about the same size and the same general shape and everything, but it really is quite a different sculpt. As you can see, the kind of turret there is bigger at the back, whereas on the original it was flat at the back, so there was a lot less space to stand the figures. You've got kind of an extra part of the turret at the back there on the new one. You can see on the back of them there, that turret part as well. They're for the most part pretty similar at the back. There are still some differences. You can see the windows are kind of more central on the new one than on the original. And the new one's a kind of lighter colour as well, but it doesn't have as much green and black faded onto it. But it's nice that the roofs on the new one are painted to look like wood, whereas on the original they were just green still. And here it is next to the 2003 castle, which is a very different design from all the others. You can see the skull's been completely redesigned. But I do really like that castle, and it's nice to have one that's a bit different rather than them all looking almost the same. I always liked that the 2003 castle has this balcony bit here, so the figures can kind of come through the door and stand on the balcony. I think that would be nice to see incorporated into another castle. Another nice thing about the 2003 castle is that rather than opening up like a book, so you get the front and one side of the castle, the back opened up both sides, so you end up with actually 3 sides to the castle. As you can see there, so that's pretty cool. The inside of the 2003 castle also looks very different. I mean, it's a completely different design on the inside. It's kind of a shame that we don't have the throne for the sorceress though, but otherwise I do like that there's the 3 walls with little walkways on either side, and it's got some electronic features as well. There are various buttons you press to make light and sound. See, it's pretty cool that the eyes light up on the outside of the castle. And lastly, the Classics Castle Grayskull, which is a lot bigger, and it is vastly superior to all the others, but that is a collector's piece. It was kind of made to order. They didn't just produce a ton of them and release them at regular retail. They were pretty much produced to order, so you only got one if you ordered one in advance. So that's why it's a lot bigger, and there's a lot more detail and paint apps, and it's just a fantastic piece, but it is definitely a collector's piece. And that's all 4 of them together. I can just about get in the shot. They do look pretty cool actually, all together like that. Just have a city of Castle Grayskulls. Snake Mountain is just massive. But it kind of scales well with it, because I mean it is a mountain compared to a castle, so it would be a lot bigger. In the UK this retails at £70, which I think is a fair price really, because it's a really nice piece. It's good for collectors because it looks great, it would look really nice on display on the shelf. It's also great for kids. It feels durable, there's a lot of play value to it. I don't know how many kids actually really know what He-Man and Castle Grayskull are, so I don't know how well this toy line is selling to kids, but it's kind of a shame if it doesn't, because there's so much play value in this. But like I say, I think collectors can really appreciate this too as another Castle Grayskull. It's different enough from the original that it is worth getting, even if you have that original. So thanks for joining me for this look at the Master of the Universe Origins Castle Grayskull. Hope you've enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next video.